everybody, and welcome back to another episode of From BA to Broadway. You know who it is. It's me. It's Mr. Brennan Stefanik, and I'm bringing you your general programming reminders. Folks, every Monday we are here with the main episodes, and every Friday, yep, we changed it to Friday. This is week 3 now. We are here with our mini-series In the Spotlight. But that's enough about us. Who cares about us? That is not why we're here today. Folks, today we have a very special guest. It is Miss Julie Galorenzo. Julie, what is going on?
Hello, how are you?
I'm so thrilled to have you here in the studio. How are you today?
I am so thrilled to be here on this gloomy 55-degree December day.
Because why? Julie, who the heck are you and what do you do?
Oh my gosh. Hi, my name is Julie Galorenzo.
Tell me all about yourself.
I will do that. I am an actor, and I also run a business where I coach lots of different mediums in theater. I do college audition coaching, which is probably most of my business. And then I do regular audition coaching for, professionals and even people who are auditioning at their community theaters.
Yeah.
Like, however you want to get better, come to me and let's do it.
Hell yeah.
And I work with all ages, which is really fun. So sometimes at, 4 o'clock, I'll have an 11-year-old singing my favorite things. And at 4:45, I have someone going in for the alto 2 line at Wicked.
Amazing.
So it's just, education never stops in theater, right?
Absolutely.
Learning never stops. So that's pretty much me. I'm a Jersey girl. Grew up in North Jersey. I'm 12 miles away from New York. Lived in New York for a long time. Went back. And here we are.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Julie, second question is usually, how do we know each other? We kind of don't. We kind of don't. We kind of do.
But you know what? That's the best way to just dive into things.
Yeah,
it's I know you kind of.
Yeah. TikTok.
And here we are.
Yeah. The magic of social media. It brings us together.
And theater people with no shame.
Oh
no
my
filter.
God. That's the way to do it nowadays.
You can talk to anybody.
Absolutely. And then, Julie, did you go to school for theater?
I did.
Amazing.
I went to Marymount Manhattan College on the Upper East Side. I went there. At the time, your options were a BFA in acting or a BA in theater, and then you picked a concentration, and then you could do a musical theater minor.
Gotcha.
So in order to do the musical theater minor, you had to do the BA in theater, pick an acting focus, and then take the minor.
That sounds complicated.
It was, my literal degree is a Bachelor of Arts in theater with a concentration in acting and a musical theater minor.
Okay.
That's too much.
That is a lot.
We were doing a lot then.
That's a lot.
Yeah. But so I went there. I moved in on September 1st, 2001. It's a really great time.
Oh, no.
To be in New York. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no. Okay.
Oh, yeah. It was great.
Okay. Great.
That's my story.
Yeah.
That's our show, folks.
Okay, thank you so much. As always, you can find us on most social media platforms. No. Amazing. Julie, today we're here to talk about some good old college auditions, which is something I have never done before.
No?
No, I did not. I
love that for you.
I came from small town middle of nowhere. We had no clue what we were doing in terms of theater after high school and whatnot. That was something that nobody did. Also, I don't know, it was so taboo. So parents didn't really want to pay for theater school and whatnot, yada, yada. You know the drill.
Absolutely.
So I applied to just a bunch of state schools because I had a state school scholarship. And then the only thing that I applied to specifically for theater was Emerson because that was still nearby. And I got the audition information and I was like, I don't know. I don't know how to do this. What is this? I don't know what any of this means. I don't think I'm good enough to audition to try and get into a school, yada, yada, yada. So I didn't go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So needless to say, I did not get into that school.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of those things that was just so freaking daunting to me, So my heart goes out to all of those people who did it and are still doing it, and all those young folks that are doing it right now, but how?
That's the question.
Yeah.
Luckily, also a reason I have a job.
Listen.
Job security.
Absolutely.
How? Yeah, it's so tough. And, I never like to talk about, when I did, I hate that.
Of course.
Because I didn't go through this. I auditioned for 6 schools, Emerson being one of them. And that's all I had to audition for. And you found out about great programs because of mailers and where people who did theater with you went.
Okay.
Because when I was applying to schools, it was my auditions, I guess, were the winter, early spring of 2001.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I didn't log into my email every day, you know, like that wasn't something that I ever did. So the only way that I knew where other people who were like me that I did shows with went to schools where they went.
Yeah.
So I had a friend who went to Catholic University. So I applied to Catholic University.
Right.
I heard about University of the Arts, rest in peace. I applied to University of the Arts, NYU, Marymount, Emerson, Boston Conservatory, Hartford. That really might have been it.
Yeah.
6 or 7. I left my NYU audition before the dance portion.
Amazing. Amazing.
At Emerson, we auditioned on 6th Avenue in some hotel.
Okay.
It was like a big room. And then they were like, great. And your dance? And I was like, oh, I'm going to do my own dance. That's great.
Wow.
Like, I just like didn't know that. That had missed my...
That's crazy.
That had missed me and my parents. And I swear to God, I happened to have, because I was going to a voice lesson later, I had my actual cassette player. And the cassette that was in there was from this summer program I did where 2 girls danced to, wait for it, Music in the Mirror.
Great.
Which I'm not.
Amazing.
That's just not ever going to be a journey for me.
Yeah.
And so what did I do? I was like, definitely. And I found it on the other side of the cassette, hit play, and made up.
Iconic.
Legend has it I'm still dancing in that hotel room somewhere. Like, I just made it up.
Oh.
Obviously, I did not get in.
Amazing.
So I didn't really have to go through this to the level that students have to now.
Yeah.
There's more students than ever. There are programs popping up left and right that are all great. There are professors who, during the pandemic, went from these long-running institutions to now they've decided they moved out of the city or they moved out of the major metropolitan market and they started a program at some school that didn't have one before. And they come with, you know, long-time teaching at NYU and some other huge institutions for theater. So there's lots of programs everywhere. And it's weird because the accessibility to go get a degree in theater is greater now than it ever was, but there's more competition than ever before also. And some of these schools have incredibly high academic standards as well. So, you know, when I had like a B- average, though the world was more of my oyster, not any longer.
And you never really take that part into consideration either. You're like, I got to be so talented to get into these schools. And then you're like, science class.
Totally.
Oof.
Yeah. So it can be really, really, and it's so expensive. The process is so wildly expensive. I mean, you have to pay to upload videos for your pre-screens, for your live auditions, to just apply to the school, for your Common App. If you need help, some people just need help with all of it. Yeah. And so it really adds up. You want to go to an audition and you don't live in a major metropolitan market, well, you've got to fly. Yep. Some schools will not see you virtually. A lot will now because of, you know, post-COVID.
That's good.
Yeah, which is great. But do you have an advantage or a disadvantage? Who's to say? Totally. You know, so... And people we are a live medium, so you want to go in person and see people and talk to them and shake a hand. So, so the students have to start, a lot of them. I mean, look, all of this is negotiable, right? So if you wake up in the middle of September and you're like, you know what, my heart's desire is to go to school for musical theater or acting, you can still make that happen. Yeah. But most people really do start the process probably the middle of their junior year. Understood. And that way your spring is really focused on, you know, where do I want to go? What's important to me? And when you're 16 or 17, sometimes you don't know. No. So things change, right?
I didn't even start acting until the beginning of my junior year of high school. Right. I didn't even feel confident about that as a path until maybe like 2 weeks before I went to college. Yeah. I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah, they'll start. And some who've known, I knew when I was in middle school, it's like, oh, I'm going to go be an actor. I didn't know that meant I was going to go to college for theater. But some people know for a long time, and some people are very, very green, and they wake up. I say that all the time. You wake up in the middle of August, and you're like, I want to do this. Great, let's figure it out. So the timeline is negotiable, but there are some things in the timeline that aren't. Like the Common App opens August 1st. The Common App prompts happen in the spring.
I haven't heard the word Common App in so long.
Giving you a throwback?
That's honestly triggering.
It didn't exist. It didn't exist for me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no. So a lot of students will start their brainstorming and sort of their self-reflection and what am I looking for? What am I hoping for? And over the course of the next 6 to 8 months, that changes because when you're 16 or 17, 6 months is a significant portion of the time you've been alive.
For sure.
So you may not know in 6 months what that person's going to want. Yeah.
Do you see any trends in like why students are choosing to go to school for theater specifically?
Oh, why they're choosing to go to school for theater. That's really interesting.
Like, are we in a stage where people are going to certain schools for connections specifically, or?
Oh, okay. So I think there's
training?
two answers.
Yeah,
there's two answers to this. So why students, I think, are really just going and pursuing theater now. I really want to say, I mean, this is some sort of number for that. And I know that my life is a little bit different, and my the way that I can reach people is a little bit different because I have a following on TikTok. Yep. And that's primarily the people that are interested in what I have to say are somewhere either a parent or a student in their college audition journey.
For sure.
I'm happy to be that.
Of course, of course.
I find the difference that I'm finding from like pre-COVID to post-COVID is the idea of like, we don't know what's around the bend.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of sad to say, but it also is such an opportunity for people and parents. Mm-hmm. You said like mine as well. They were very supportive, but they were like, also maybe you should like take a minor. I'm like, well, my minor's in musical theater. Can't do that there.
You're like, I already did that.
I already checked box. But I think the tide has shifted a lot in terms of like, what's your backup plan and what else can you do? And it really is like, is this what you want to do? Like, okay, let's take a chance at what we want. Let's take a chance at pursuing our dreams a bit.
That's awesome.
That's what I'm seeing. And it's very rare these days that I work with a family where the parents may not know what's going on and they're the first ones to say it. If they listen to this,
for sure.
You know, they've said it, right?
For sure.
They're like, we have no clue. We are accountants and we, this is not our field. We need someone who can help with this. But they're very, very supportive. And it's very rare I have a conversation with a parent or a caregiver who is like, I don't want them to do this. I'm letting them. But I think this is a terrible idea. Yep. That's very rare. If at all, I really can't tell the last few years. So I think there's this air of like, let's do what we want to do a bit. And then in terms of where they're choosing to apply, it's funny because when I said earlier, I applied where people I knew were going. And I grew up in North Jersey, where everyone on Broadway lives.
Yep.
So when I was doing classes, I was with X, Y, and Z's kid and all these very, very talented people. I grew up with a lot of talented people. So people were always going to school for theater and stuff. But those are the people that I knew. Yep. Well, the people who are now scattered in the U.S., when they're deciding where to go to school, they're looking at people that they don't know, right?
Yeah.
Which is, where did this person go, or this Broadway person, or this person I follow on TikTok, where did they go to school? And then those people go to some of the big name schools. And so, however, I think people have their heads more screwed on properly about like, do you have the academics for that school? Yeah. Let's start there.
For sure.
Because going to Michigan, you got to have these grades. Yeah. And you have to be superiorly talented in at least one of these areas. And then there's a financial component too, right? And it's $150 to apply for the pre-screen. So like, do you really want to go there? Or did you hear that that's where you went to go to Broadway school? So I do a lot of work with my students on really curating a list of schools. And we'll talk about a lot of schools.
For sure.
And I'm not going to tell them where to apply. I'm just going to be like,
yeah,
I think you definitely get in there. Let's try this one. That sounds good for you. And so we come up with a really nice list that, yes, has some pie in the sky.
Yeah.
Go for it. This is about, we're not going to a safe,
oh my God,
environment here.
No.
Go for it. If you want to apply to that school, go. Like, I still think about how my Boston Conservatory application just sat in that drawer and I never sent it. I never sent it, never put it in the mail. And I think about that pretty regularly. So I don't want people to have those kind of regrets.
Yeah.
So go and do it and try. And they might say no. They most likely will.
For sure.
And I'm more comfortable now telling that to a student too.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is a long shot. These are not as long. So maybe pick one or two of these.
Yeah.
But let's all kind of just remember what we're talking about here. 3,000 applicants.
Absolutely.
16 spots. Are you one of the 16? You might be. That's the risk you need to figure out if you want to take or not.
Yeah. I mean, and if you can financially swing it, take the risk.
Well, and there's a lot that I think it's such an interesting part of the business that I see because it costs money to work with me, right? Like I run a business.
For sure.
So, and I charge them less than I charge if someone just worked with me every single week for a year, right? Like there's a discount to be able to like work with me on these things. It still has a cost though.
Yeah.
And then they go and accrue a cost and I say, well, pick up the phone and call and ask for a fee waiver. Don't send them an email. Pick up the phone. You, the student, not the parent. Pick up the phone. Call. Hi. 3 sentences. Are there any fee waivers available? Stop talking.
What is a fee waiver?
Oh my gosh, they can call, right? See, like you have to like pay for knowledge, right? It's like, I know that. I'm happy to tell whoever. But yes, I know that, but they've had to write me a check for me to be able to tell them that. It's crazy. But you can call the admissions department, pick up the phone, call whoever's there. Try not to call during a lunchtime.
Of course.
Call, say, hi, my name is Julie. I'm applying to musical theater. I would love to see if I'm paying for it myself. I was hoping to see if there's a fee waiver for my application or a fee waiver for my pre-screen. And so they're either going to say no, which is the same position you're in now, or they're going to give you a little code. They've got the code on a Post-it right by their desk.
That's
all you have to
crazy.
Do is call.
They don't tell you this stuff.
And they don't tell you this stuff. And honestly, I didn't know even until a few years ago. And I was like, okay, well, let's try. You know, there's also other ways. It's so expensive just to front load stuff. But then like people say, oh, you applied to 25 schools. Yeah. It's like, well, yes, that's crazy. And it's a lot of money and all of those things. However, what is another $25 or $50 a school when now you've got, instead of 2 acceptances, you've got 6?
Yeah.
And you can say, hey, school I really want to go to, this other school that's the same type of level is actually giving me $25,000 a year. Yeah. You're giving me 10. I want to go to your school. How can you meet me in the middle here?
Absolutely.
And you negotiate. So while up front you might spend $300 or $400 extra on applications, you might, at the end of the day, save yourself $50,000 to $100,000 plus your interest.
Totally.
Because you spent an extra couple dollars, you pitted the schools against each other.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so that's how I spend April, working with students and parents. And I say, here's your 3 sentences. Send the proof, screenshot, you're not making it up. This is a comparable school, comparable situation, comparable degree. What can you do for me?
Yeah.
You're in the position of power then. They wanted you.
Totally.
And then maybe you get your money and you go back to the other school.
I mean, yeah.
You know, once a negotiator, always a negotiator. But you can, while it might feel like, oh, I'm putting that money up front, it really is kind of like securing that you're going to get you might not want to go to that school.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not taking a spot from somebody else because there's a wait list. And if you took a spot, the next person's going to get there. Wherever you're supposed to be, wherever you are is going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, someone's going to say no. And hopefully maybe it might be for you one day that you get that spot.
Truly.
But then you can, you know, so there's a lot of upfront costs.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there's a lot that you pay for upfront that can come back to you in spades, to the tune of tens of thousands, even up to $100,000 when all is said and done.
That's just that crazy part of like later in life where you like really start to learn that there are no rules and all you got to do is just like ask for things where you're
just
like,
ask.
Yeah.
You're in no worse position than you are now. You already aren't in the school.
Of course.
Or you did get in and they're not going to say, never mind. It's not like a theater job where if you ask for more money, they're like, actually, Julie, never mind. $50 extra a week. No, we're not doing that.
The vibes are off.
The vibes are off. You're asking for, you're doing too much. Oh, do you want us to give you your tights also?
Yeah.
Right? No, it's not like that. Like they're not going to rescind that from you because you asked a 3-sentence question.
For sure.
So I also I like to empower the students to take that on themselves too. Like I talk to parents as well, especially if there's a concern or they're worried about their kid or whatever it is. Those are usually the conversations I have with parents. But most of my work is with the student.
Totally.
And I'm trying to get them to also learn early to advocate for themselves, to say what they want, to be able to be concise in how they ask for something. 3 sentences. We don't need your sob story. We don't need to know about that you're a theater kid. Stop that theater kid energy. No. Stop it. Stop it.
Stop the theater kid energy. Put that on a pillow. God.
Stop the theater kid energy. It's so funny because I'll work with them and I'll be like, all right, let's do a fake little interview. All right, tell me about yourself.
Amazing.
And they're like, well, and I'm like, all right, already no.
Done. No. No, thank you.
Stop it. Stop it. You haven't ever talked like that to me before. Try again.
That's so funny.
Try again.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah. So there's lots of benefits to paying for some things up front so that money does come back to you at the end of the day to the tune of a considerable chunk of change.
Totally.
And most students, let's face it, don't really understand what they're getting into when you're 18 years old and you're signing on a dotted line you don't understand the ramifications of that.
Of course.
And a degree in theater, unless you are a celebrity, let's be very real.
Yep.
It's not like, okay, well, I spent $150,000 on my engineering degree and I'm going to go make that my first year out.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
No.
It's not going to happen unless you are really a high performing, at a high, stable performing job for a long time. So you have to pay that back within 6 months. You got to start. And it might sound like, oh, I could figure that out. Well,
no, you can't.
You're working at Claire's for $11 an hour on, Saturday afternoons because your mom said get a job. That's different. We're in a different ballpark. Unless you come from generational wealth, which is a completely different story.
Yes. And that is a huge part of the equation.
For another day.
Yeah, exactly. So when we are looking at programs, what are we equating in terms of BA versus BFA and our journeys within that? What are we deciding what we do or do not need?
It's such a fabulous question that everyone asks. There's definitely a mentality out there in the world of BFA or bust.
Of course.
That like that's the degree that means you go to Broadway. And I think that is something that people do believe. I think it's a matter of what you really see for yourself.
Okay.
And at some point, it might be where you get in. Right?
Totally.
I say this story all the time. I went to college with Annalie Ashford. We graduated together, and she got into one school, and that's the school she went to, right? So you might not have a choice.
Yeah.
And you might have a Tony then, but you got into one school, and that's the school that you went to. And that might be whatever the degree is that school offers you.
For sure.
Unless you want to try again, which of course, sure. But if you're like, I'm doing this once and I'm going to look at my options, I think look at both because you really don't know. There are fabulous Bachelor of Arts musical theater programs, and there are fabulous Bachelor of Arts acting programs. A lot of them are Bachelor of Arts in theater, then you pick a focus.
Yes.
That's typically the biggest difference, I think, is between audition and non-audition.
Understood.
Because there are also, up until this past year, there was also a few BFA non-audition programs.
Okay.
Or who have very different criteria.
Yeah.
So you might want to look at audition versus non-audition. I encourage people to look at both because you do want to be able to say, oh, I have somewhere to go.
Yes.
For musical theater. Check that box off. You also want to look at the curriculum because there are plenty of BFA programs that don't operate like other ones. There are BFAs that feel more like a conservatory where you don't take a math class. You maybe take the one gen ed that's required for the school.
Totally.
But other than that, you're in dance every day at 8 a.m. And then you're in all your regular theater classes. And then you have main stage rehearsal. And that's what you do every single day.
Yeah.
That might not be what is for everybody. Some people might also like photography. I would like to take a photography class. Well, there might be a BFA program that's more based in a liberal arts education.
Heard.
So that's like a big difference between those two. And then a lot of BA programs often function very similarly to the BFA. So it's just a matter of opening up that curriculum, which students don't do.
Yeah.
You want to find the curriculum. You might have to search a bit. You want to find it and look, compare, and look for things that I think are very important if you're going to walk away with an acting or theater degree, right?
Yeah.
Acting classes, all 4 years. We cannot have an acting degree if we have acting twice.
Exactly.
Right?
For
you
sure.
need all 4 years, 8 semesters acting. That might look a little different each school.
Yeah.
But maybe that means Shakespeare 1 year. Maybe that means monologues and scenes. Maybe it means viewpoints. But there should be 8 semesters of acting.
Yes.
If you're looking at musical theater, I'm not somebody who's going to say you have to have voice all 8 semesters. I don't know if it's so expensive for 1 credit. Like, work with me on Zoom. You know what I mean? Like, find somebody else. And if that's a requirement, it's very expensive. And it's usually attached because you are taking a musical theater class. Oh, my scene into song class. Great. That requires me to take voice.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's available because it's like an elective, and sometimes it's a requirement. Dance, right? If you're getting a degree in musical theater, you should be dancing. I don't know if you have to dance every single day for 4 years straight, but just make sure that it's something that if you are a dancer, you can continue that training.
Understood.
And if you're not, if you have 2 left feet, you might want a little, but also you're paying for this. Maybe those skills are not going to be something that really transfers for you. Maybe you don't see yourself in the ensemble of, a regional production of White Christmas. Yeah.
Movers represent.
Right. Aggressive movers, whatever you want to call yourself.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it. But that would have probably been something for me if Marymount at the time had the BFA in musical theater, where if they're like, I have to dance every morning at 8:30 every single day for 4 years. Like, no, thank you. No, it's just not. That's not for me necessarily. Yep. So, I mean, and at that school, things were kind of fly by the seat of your pants a bit at the time. So, I just don't think that necessarily is something that you must have unless that is something that you want to continue that training. Like that was something I had a student last year who, when she was looking at school, she's like, I don't want to look. She was she's like one of the best dancers. Somebody at one of the schools said, you're the most dynamic dancer I've ever seen at her audition. She's going to Michigan, but she was a great little actor and singer also. Yeah. But she was like, if the dance training, if I can't take dance with dance majors or the highest level that they have, what's the point? And she was totally right because that's where she excelled to a level that I had not seen before.
Totally.
So that makes sense. So I think you just have to really look at what's for you. Don't get too wrapped up in BA versus BFA if you can avoid it.
Of course,
I think some people say, I just like to get, like today I had somebody who got into his BFA program and they were like, I just want to get into one. I just want to be able to get into one.
It's nice to have that kind of validation sometimes if you need it. Yeah.
Yeah, if that makes you feel good, maybe that's not the choice that they make ultimately. For sure. Though. So I think you just got to do a little bit. You got to dig a bit.
Yeah.
Curriculum and faculty.
Heard that. Yeah. I mean, also, even curriculum in its own, like people aren't telling you to look at that. I feel like when you're applying to colleges,
no,
I feel like I was just advertised colleges themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and it was never really, are these the best programs in the country or whatnot? It was like, let's look at the college. Let's look at what you want to major in. Do they have this major?
Do they have that major?
Amazing.
That's so real. They do.
Go for
Check.
it, sport.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean.
Well, and things change too, right? Because when I was going to school 1,000 years ago, I grew up essentially on the campus of Montclair State University in Montclair, New Jersey. I drove past it every single day. It was less than a minute drive from my front door. And my mom went to Montclair State. Like, nobody went to Montclair State for musical theater.
Yeah.
No one. It was, I could touch the campus from my front door, and the thought never would have occurred to me. And now Montclair is one of the most competitive programs to get into. And even still to this day, people from New Jersey, I'm like, I'm not going to Montclair for music theater. I was like, well, you're not getting in.
Yeah.
Well,
you're right.
Okay,
you're not.
You're right.
You're right.
Sorry. You're right. And their parents are like, what? I'm like, yeah, no, they're okay. Then don't apply.
Yeah.
Like, okay, don't do it. But things change. And programs change and faculty changes. And so really it is this weird balance of like, are my neighborhood schools ones that actually have this randomly incredible program where otherwise I wouldn't have thought twice about going to that school, right?
Totally.
So sometimes you do have to like look at the local schools, see what's going on there,
Yeah.
making sure that, if it is a good program, great. If it's not, okay, then you keep moving,
Heard.
But curriculum, nobody tells you.
No. Okay, so we're applying to our schools.
Yeah.
We get our auditions.
Woo.
What does that look like? What are they asking us to do?
Okay, this is my favorite part. Oh my gosh, you're gonna have to watch the time. Okay.
We're fine. We got this.
So there's I break things down into kind of like 3 sections. There's your administrative responsibilities, which is you've applied to the schools, you've selected your audition dates. Great. Like I'll start with all that stuff. There's what I call set 1, which is your pre-screen prep.
Okay.
Not every school requires a pre-screen, but you probably, if you're applying to 20 to 25 schools, you are probably going to have to do a pre-screen for between 8 to 12 of them.
Okay.
Of those schools, I always say I'm thrilled doing a happy dance in the street if you pass 3 to 4.
Yeah.
So of 12, 4 you're going to get to audition for, most likely. It depends on how well we've curated this list, right?
Of course.
That's a phenomenal result. If you have too many passes, that might mean that we didn't bulk up your highly competitive schools enough or, whatever. We can go back and look.
Heard.
But so you'll prep that initial round of material. And so when I work with people, and this is a really great piece of advice that also people don't tell you. So if you're like going through this process, you're going to write this down and say, Julie told me on this date, because you're going to thank me for it in a year when part is done for you.
Totally.
You need to prepare the following things. And everything gets a short and long version. So short is under 60 seconds and long is under 90 seconds. And most of this applies to acting majors as well. So I'm going to say musical theater, but a lot of it is overlap.
Okay.
For musical theater, you are going to need to prepare 1 contemporary, meaning post 1970, which that's not contemporary, but that's not a battle I'm willing to fight today.
For sure.
Yeah, we'll have the referendum another day. But they call it after 1970, right? So any a contemporary song and then a classic song, golden age traditional musical theater, typically written before 1970. They've gotten better in the last couple of years of using less limiting language.
Yeah.
So they'll say things like typically written after or approximately. So yes, if your song feels very golden age and it's from 1971, but there's something about it that's really giving golden age and you could use it for an Oklahoma audition, that's fine, right? You can blur the lines a bit.
Okay.
So you'll need those 2. And then you'll need, for sure, 1 contemporary monologue from a play usually written after 1950.
Okay.
And then a classic, most people won't have to do this, but you'll need a classic monologue, which is not Shakespeare or Greek plays. It is Henrik Ibsen, Anton Chekhov, Oscar Wilde, 1800s, maybe into the very, very early part of the 1900s if you want to look at Shaw, that kind of thing. And you'll need if you have those 4, you can pretty much pre-screen at any school.
Okay, great. If
you want to early load, which is what usually I do, the additional material, you'll want a backup musical theater song, which is maybe just something else you do. Like if you're me and you want to belt 2 songs, maybe we have like what I call the OPS, the 1-page soprano, where it's literally 8 bars of I Could Have Danced All Night,
Great.
Something like that. Or maybe you would be great in certain shows that require a certain style of singing, like blues or hip hop. Great. Then maybe that's in your package as another piece of the puzzle. You'll want that. And then the big dread, which is the pop song, Right. And pop song is all things, right?
Yeah.
Pop song we can stretch our imagination to be Cole Porter.
Of course.
Right. So like pop can be very, very expansive. Yes. But it is good to think about that because theater kids don't listen to pop music.
No.
And that is a blanket statement that I'm making here.
That is correct. That is true.
I'm making that right now.
Yeah. That's so funny. My roommate is not here right now, but he is quaking. He is quaking 20 blocks away.
I'm sorry, I felt it. No, but it of course there are exceptions to everything.
Yeah.
But I would venture to guess if I had 10 musical theater seniors here right now and I said sing a pop song, they would sing Party in the USA.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? Like this is not our bread and butter.
Totally.
So it does take a little bit of time because you also don't want it to be rushed.
No.
And there are certainly artists that maybe you don't remember that are important to you when you were growing up that you just need a little bit of memory and a little jolt to remember. So we like to kind of get those done. And then you'll need a backup contemporary monologue, especially if you have NYU on your list. NYU does not have a pre-screen, but you do need 2 contemporary monologues for them. So that's good to know. And then most people don't need it also, but if you are pursuing an acting major, you most likely will need a Shakespeare monologue.
Okay.
So if you do all of those, what is that, 8 pieces?
Yeah.
Plus you've had to prepare, if you're doing musical theater, a dance piece, which is either self-choreographed, or if you hire someone like me or another company, they might be able to provide you with a couple options and some support for that. Or it can be something you recreate in your living room from when you did Anything Goes last year at your high school. So in order to do that, there's lots of options.
Yeah.
People get very scared about the dance component.
Of course.
But you don't need to be, really. And no one's getting in or out of school if you have 2 left feet. You know, they're not like, ooh, bye, not seeing you. That's not, it's one piece of the puzzle. It's like saying I sang 1 flat note and that's why I didn't get into the school.
Okay.
Like you sang 85 other ones that were perfectly in tune. So it's just one piece of the puzzle. And you might have to prepare an optional ballet.
Wow.
Yeah. That's really juicy. That's really juicy. And they don't tell you what it is. They just say, prepare these moves, a series of pliés, tendus, a grand battement, a grand jeté across the floor, and a pirouette. And then they say like on doors. I don't speak French, ballet French, but it means on both sides.
Great.
Which like you then have to Google to see what that means. But so you have to put that together. And that's like saying to someone who's not a singer, great, can you do straight tone into vibrato on this note? And they're like, I don't know what either of those things mean.
For sure.
That's like telling someone who's never taken a ballet class to do a series of tendus. Like they don't know what that means.
That's crazy.
So there are some times where you need that additional support. So that's your pre-screen prep. And you have to kind of do all of that. Aside from those additional pieces that I spoke about, you most likely are going to have 6-ish videos that you have to prepare for those pre-screens, plus this unfortunate thing called a wild card, where they say, just do something for 60 seconds. And you're like, what does that mean? I'm a theater kid. My thing is acting, and you're seeing that. So you might have to do a little bit of research and thought about what that might mean to you. I have people do like a follow me as I do morning announcements, or come with me to tennis practice. You know, somebody this year redid some very famous, I didn't know it, but some very famous thing from Drag Race.
Oh, okay. And
like they redid that with their friends, and it was very creative and highly edited and really amazing. So you can be super creative or not.
Yeah.
And that's getting you through pre-screens. So that all needs to be done.
Crazy.
Plus, hopefully you read the play.
Of course.
Right? Which I make my students do in November and December. But hopefully you know what the context is here.
Yes.
Plus, don't forget you've got to film all that. You've got to, either you have to edit it or someone like me has to edit it. You've got to get it all then uploaded to the appropriate platforms, which might be 12 different platforms. So that's a huge, huge component. So when people start in September, it's like, okay, you're just pushing it a bit, but it can be done. But that's why we start pretty early, so that by the time August comes, you're like, okay, Common App opened, I can just do that. And then in September, I can film, and I don't have this pressure kind of going on me.
Totally.
And then you have a little bit of time off. So if you've gotten ahead of your pre-screens and you're done by the middle of October, I usually aim for like Columbus Day is like usually like when I'm like, okay, that's like the latest we're going to do, with a couple of exceptions. Then you upload, and then you have a little bit of time. You're waiting for your pre-screen results to come in. You've got, okay, I didn't get in here. You'll have peaks and valleys days, you know, like, oh my God, I passed this crazy school and then I didn't get into this one.
Yeah.
And it will happen in the course of a couple hours. So the students get very used very quickly to that rejection feel. They're like, oh, what else is new? They're almost like anticipating that this is not going to be good news, right?
For sure.
And I'm like, well, that's really setting you up for the real
honestly,
world.
Let's
it's not high school
early.
anymore, you know, like here we go. So then you're collecting all of your audition dates and seeing what else you need in addition to what's already been prepared. Now, if you've front loaded a lot of that work, you might not have coached the pop song, but you know what it is. And you've had it kind of like in your Spotify playlist for a bit. you've also then got to prep your material for the live portion. You've done everything on film so far.
Mm-hmm.
So now you need to make sure your sheet music is cut, that it's really nicely laid out, that it's the same arrangement that you did. If you pulled a YouTube track off something, guess what? The piano's not sounding like that.
Mm-hmm.
So now we need to get the sheet music. You need to run in front of a pianist, hopefully. So there's a couple other things that go along with that. And then you're scheduling those auditions.
Totally.
And there's an element of you have to be flexible because you might be waiting up for 6 schools till the middle of January, but you've got to schedule these other schools that did pass you or don't have a pre-screen.
Yes.
So you got to be a little bit flexible,
Heard.
So yeah, it's a little crazy.
Just a little bit.
It's just a little kooky.
So now when we're finding our materials and stuff that we are going to start submitting for all of this stuff, are we focusing on things like we are today? Like, are we focusing on what our brand is? Are we focusing on type and whatnot?
This is so juicy.
All those words that we love to hear and focus on and dwell. But are we trying to get that specific when we're in high school? And where are we trying to find our, especially with monologues and stuff, where are we trying to find our resources and materials?
So when I sit down with a student, like I hear them sing and read lines like at the end of our first meeting.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the least important thing to me.
Hard.
Because whatever you got, I can work with.
Great.
If you've got like 2 left feet and, and can't hit a pitch, that's okay. I got you. We got it. I'm not worried. So I think there are some students who have a very clear idea of who they are and what or the roles that they've done up to this point. I think when we work together or when I work with people, we uncover things that they didn't know that they had a bit too. And that's part of the education of all of this too.
Totally.
Right? Working with someone on college auditions is not simply, I think, at least what I do is not just, let's get you ready for these auditions and be great at auditioning. No, like we're working to let's figure out like something that you don't know about yourself. Like how exciting is that? Like I have people who are like, I didn't know I'm funny. I'm like, well, that's great. Now you do. Look at that.
Truly.
And you can take that and you can ebb that into your other material and the things that now I had somebody who's like, I'm actually going to go for this other role in The Drowsy Chaperone at my school. And I'm like, great, do that. You're excellent at this thing that no one had uncovered for you.
Yeah.
So I think unless a student really has an extraordinarily strong, they're like, I'm a comedic, I'm a character actor. I sing a little, I'm a character actor. That's different, I think. But if someone is still very moldable and they have like a basic skill set, I really focus on like the pieces being a transformative package of material.
Heard.
So that from thing to thing, even if you are a character actor, you can do other things.
Of course.
And when you're 17, you definitely can.
You
just need a little push.
Yeah.
So we'll look at things like, what's the thing that you do best? Okay, I'm a character actor. I've played Gomez and, Pseudolus. I'm like, great. So then that's what the most important piece is, the contemporary piece. So what fits this world of this kind of thing for you?
Yeah.
What works in your voice, what works in your acting ability. And then we'll take, okay, that's the contemporary choice. That has to be the thing you do the best.
Yeah.
Then the classic song, let's say, maybe that's the thing that you're not leading with. But like, why can't you also sing On the Street Where You Live?
For sure.
Why can't you sing this beautiful song from Brigadoon, right? That absolutely, you have the voice, you have this, let's show them something else that you can do. So I think like that kind of branding is good if you've got a really strong sense of what that is.
Heard.
But most students I find actually are very jazzed to try a lot of different things.
That's nice.
And then when you've got 3 pieces, or 4 in some cases, let's take away the 4th for now, but if you've got 2 songs and a monologue that you have to do, that's 3 different things. If I'm showing I'm this like really like had this beautiful mezzo dramatic soprano sound and you're singing this gorgeous song from Light in the Piazza or something, right?
Yep.
And then, okay, you could also be fast and fun. Let's do a little fast and fun high soprano. Ooh, juicy. Or like low belting. Great, fun, great. Then what does that mean for the monologue? The monologue can't be brooding and dramatic. We have that. The monologue can't be fast and fun. We already have that. Well, what's left? Great. Something that looks like it could be in a Netflix show.
Heard.
Something that's conversational. Something that might be in an episode of This Is Us.
Yeah.
Obviously from a play, not from a...
Of course.
never from a television show, God forbid. But that's how we fill that hole. By saying the music is the most important piece. We're acting through it, of course. So we're showing how we transform from each piece. And then that monologue fills a hole that we didn't have in the music. And that's part of, I think for me, it's very much a tenet of what I'm looking for and what I'm trying to do, because students do come in and they're like, oh, well, I'm funny, or oh, I only play sad roles. Okay, so are you just sad all the time? Like, no, you are a human with experience and a point of view, and you are taking direction immediately. Like, let's play and explore. Find something else that you're also great at. Like, why can't you be great at all these things?
Yeah.
And I think that also, like, is back to me a bit on like who I am as a performer, because I think people think that I like do one thing and the thing that I do, like, sure, like I get jobs doing that, but it's not the thing that actually excites me.
Of course.
Like, I'm trying to be Heidi Hansen. Like, that's, I'm trying to be like Sad Mom era, you know?
Yeah.
But I get cast in fast and fun villains who don't know they're villains kind of roles.
Of course.
Or bad at being villains. Those are the things that pay the bills. And I'm happy to do them and I enjoy them. But I think people didn't take a chance on me, you know, for many different things. So I'm not, when a student comes to me, I'm like, let's explore everything. Let's leave no stone unturned about what you can do. And then it's important that those things are what you're great at now, right? If you're a baritone and on your best day you have Neff, no, not for this.
No.
Not for this. We're going to take it down a half step.
Absolutely.
And everyone will just have to get over it.
Yeah.
You know, I change keys constantly.
Yes,
I'm making crazy cuts of things. I'm saying, all right, we don't have that note. Let's have two options.
For sure.
Sing this at 8 a.m. and sing this at 11.
Amazing.
Same song, you know?
Yeah.
And so we'll really make sure that they feel like at this moment in time, this is the best The kid that just got into a program yesterday, we broke so many rules on. He's singing the song from If Then, You Don't Need to Love Me. Do you know that song?
Yeah.
Gorgeous little song. Anthony Rapp, singing A flats. Not this kid. Nope. I think we took it down a fourth.
Great.
He's in.
Amazing.
He got in. So like, yes, change the key. Yes, do things that are going, explore all the parts of your artistry. And just because someone's saying this in this key, that's because that was the person who was hired for the job originally.
Totally.
So let's do it in a different key.
Of course.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Good.
Yeah. So we play around quite a bit.
There shouldn't be any rules like that early in the game. That's so stupid.
And why is it always this flip side of, oh, you raised the key?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they did it in a higher key. Well, maybe they did it in a lower key.
Yeah.
Because that's where the power for me is.
Exactly.
That's where the power for this particular student is. But I really love breaking all of the kind of like conventional rules.
For sure.
I had this one girl a few years ago. She's at Boston Conservatory. Hi, Abby. She won't mind me sharing this.
Of course.
I heard her sing on Zoom. It was height of the pandemic. They had found me on TikTok. Her mom was like, I know she's going to love you. I want you to be the one who helps her.
Amazing.
She sang the roof of her house. I was like, you are going to be flying at the Gershwin in 2028. Like, it's just a matter of time for this person. Okay. She is unbelievable and passed 100% of her pre-screens. These pre-screens we did, the place we were filming, she came up from wherever she was from, somewhere like Maryland maybe. And the place had like an electrical issue and started sparking. So I was like, get your shit. We like got all of our stuff. I took her to my apartment.
Yeah.
I moved things off of a wall because they were up for a day.
Yeah.
So I'm filming her pre-screens. They were in this blank wall. We filmed there, bad lighting, bad sound, no extra light, no pretty backdrop.
Yeah.
One of her songs was A New Life from Jekyll and Hyde, which is one of those like overdone, don't you dare sing songs. But she was singing it. Like, just wait till you hear her someday. I'm going to tell you. Her other song was Everybody Says Don't from Anyone Can Whistle, which is Sondheim, which we changed the key on.
Whoa.
Sondheim changing the key. Like, you're crazy. And like, I'm a crazy person. And then we sang it up. We sang it up so high and we did a kooky cut of it. And then her monologue was completely spliced together from a scene. So all of the rules are just like, they're irrelevant.
Yeah.
They really are. They're things that have been like passed down as wives' tales over the course of time. Don't sing Jason Robert Brown. Don't sing Sondheim. Don't sing Adam Gettle. Don't change the key. It's just this like gatekeepy old school mentality.
Of course.
And it's just not what the reality is of how people perform. Like, there are plenty of scores that you see, you know, when you get ragtime, there's at different keys in the back of the book, you know, for all different roles.
That's amazing.
So,
yeah.
You know, this is not unstandard. You know what I mean? That people are doing that. So I think whatever the rules are, it's okay to negotiate them as long as it's then giving you the best representation of what you do.
Totally.
You know, so it can work.
Yeah.
It totally can.
Yeah.
I have a song that I sing for auditions. I have it in 2 keys.
Good.
And sometimes I sing it in 1 key. And
Good.
I sing it in the basement, you know? But the result is the same.
Of course.
You know, there's no data if I got called back more with this than that.
Yeah.
You know, the performance is the same.
Totally. And like, why would people ever want to listen to the same thing the same way over and over and over again?
Please.
You know?
Yeah.
I just told you I was at a call yesterday. I cannot tell you how many times I heard the same song over and over and over and over. And I was like, this man must want to die behind that table. Just,
absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. You know, I think about like, I had this audition and it was just in the moment, I had put it on Instagram because I was like, I'm going to do something crazy right now. I went to the call for Ragtime for City Center and I wasn't feeling great. Like, this was not going to be a mega musical singing day for me. Yeah. You know, like Hold On from the Secret Garden wasn't happening. It wasn't in the voice. So I was like, I was listening in the hallway and it was just like mega musical jam after mega musical jam, just the saddest things, you know? And I'm like, you know what? we're going to go in with a different point of view. And I was the first one in my group. I was like mortified, but I was like, I'm going in and I sang How Can I Wait from Paint Your Wagon, which is like so goofy and silly.
Yeah.
But I do it very like contemporary acting. And the person who was the casting director was like, can I swear?
Oh my God. Yes, absolutely.
He hits the table and he goes, well, that was a fucking blast.
Amazing.
He goes, Jesus Christ, that was a fucking blast. Thank you so much. I did not get called back. But I have the memories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like sometimes the things that you want to do are just not in you, but you're there.
Of course.
And you have to be able to call an audible, which is also something I encourage my students to do too. It's like, yes, you had this one plan, but the plan got derailed.
Yes.
So do we crumble and go to the bathroom and not go to our audition like I did for NYU because you got nervous about the dance? No. You work through.
Yes.
You figure out what's the plan B. What's the other thing that I can do now? And you keep going and you show up, you know?
Totally. And once again, this is another situation too where like all these people are seeing so many people auditioning for their schools and stuff. Even if you go in and you flub or whatever, they're not going to remember. You know, this is not going to affect your reputation. This is not, and it's not going to do too bad for you in the long run of anything and getting into schools and whatnot. So
it's not. And sometimes I find that the professors who are sitting in those auditions aren't even the ones who watched the pre-screen videos.
Yeah.
I had a student last year who was going to New York Unifieds, which the Unified auditions are, you know, all the schools come together and they go to a main central location. And it's not one audition for all these schools, which would be lovely. It's still different rooms and things. And you can walk into these auditions sometimes if there's room. Well, I had one student who was in from California and she's like, I have one shot. I'm here for one weekend. I had the budget to come to one place, so I chose New York Unifieds. And she went and asked this one school if they had walk-in auditions available. And the guy said, yeah, why don't you come back at 3 o'clock?
Amazing.
She came back at 3 o'clock. She went in for her audition, and the guy said, wow, why didn't you apply to our school? And she goes, I did. I didn't pass the pre-screen.
Heard.
And he was like, oh, my goodness. He's like, I must have not watched your videos. I would have passed you in a heartbeat. So sometimes it's not even like two people from the same school could have a very different perception of your ability, you know, and the same rules apply for when you go to 3 different people who are at Tara Rubin or whatever it is. You just don't know.
It is so subjective. It's just all opinions. It's all opinions.
It's all opinions.
And everybody has them.
Oh my gosh, they sure do.
What's your most controversial opinion ever?
Are you really asking me that right now? Oh my God, please no, I can't say
Let's get her canceled.
I mean, I think it would probably be something like change the key of Sondheim.
Oh my God.
That would probably be
telling the media.
Alert the press. Alert on stage blog.
Wow. That's so funny too. Oh my God. Okay. So we did our auditions and whatnot, and we get all of our results back. How do we actually make the decision?
Yeah.
Like, how do we actually truly make the decision on paper? You know, yes, I got into the school that I was dreaming I would get into, but also I got into this also really amazing school or whatnot. And this is so hard.
It's so hard. It's so hard. And I always think about like, wow, this was such an easy choice for me, you know, because I auditioned at 6 or 7 schools. I ended up with like 3 choices, I think. One that I never was going to go to because I knew I wanted to be in New York. And the other one was like, okay, the money was good, but I wanted to be in New York. And that was it. I really didn't need, once I got into Marymount, I was like, that's where I want to go. Like, so sometimes it'll be very clear. But if it is not clear, and I'm going to say a couple different things just to consider.
Yeah.
One, money.
Heard.
If you do not come from a long line of generational wealth, there is a very high likelihood that you're going to have to take out loans. And like I said earlier, there is not an acting job, apparently not even being in the Wicked movie, that's going to pay for that education back to you, right? So let's be really smart and try to protect our future selves here a bit. Listen to people who are on your side about money and about funding this. Ask for more money. Keep going until they say we are done, we're tapped out, right? The people who are handling the finances are not the people who are going to be putting you in a main stage show. Yeah. Those people don't care. And sometimes the department has a budget of scholarship and aid for them to use. Yeah. Maybe it's I'm making this number up, $3 million. So when you get your acceptance, they say, you're getting a presidential scholarship of $22,000. Well, everybody got that.
Yep.
There's more funds to be had there. So don't take that first, that first offer. It really is an opening line to start a negotiation.
Yeah.
So do whatever you can to get that money down. Then once the money all seems like it is feasible in some world, then you have to look at all other things being equal. Location. Look at things that are really important to you. There are some states that I tell students not to apply to schools there.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you want to go to school in that state? Okay, good luck. Why? Do you have any idea about what's going on politically in that place?
Yeah.
It's just, this is not a political climate right now where you can just go figure it out. Oh, well, I'm in a major city in this state. You're not protected in the state, probably. No. So there are some other things that absolutely, I think, are critical that are considered.
For sure.
I also think distance from home. Students, when I went to Marymount, people came from all over the country. Yeah. But that's not the case in schools that maybe aren't in major metropolitan markets. The theater students might all be from all over the place, but the rest of the student body may not be. So, you got to make sure that you can find a niche and a friend group within that group. There are people who are like, I want to make sure that there's a Hillel where I go. Gotcha. So there are some things that are very important, and I think you have to make sure that those are checking some of the boxes. Yeah. Especially understanding for yourself what's a deal breaker or not. Then, hopefully, we're at a place where we're looking at, all right, let's compare these curriculums. Yes. And let's say, what's the place for me that is really going to, at this school, I have to do clowning and viewpoints and this other stuff, and I'm not really into the physical piece of theater. Maybe that's something I need to learn, but that seems to be like a fundamental basis for this program.
Understood.
They do Suzuki and all this other stuff. Maybe that's not for me. But this program, instead of those classes, they have another class in script analysis or another class in a different acting method. Maybe that's more of the vibe for me. So then you just kind of have to break it down a bit. Yeah. I think a lot of the time, the decision will get made for you. Yeah. And that, I think, is a beautiful thing, because your whole life is going to be a whole lot of decisions. And if you can have one that it seems pretty dang obvious, which is the one for you, I think that's a great thing. It also means that you've done something right. If you're ending up with one or two schools, that's not a bad thing. No. It means that you're really matched with people that are so enthusiastic about what you bring to the table. Yes. And that is not a bad thing. No. If you get into 10 schools, great. Okay, great. You're obviously super talented and you're performing at an exceptional level, and lots of people want you. But lots of people want you. Yeah. What about those couple programs that really want you, that see, I can work with this person? There's there's a fire in them that I know I can work with. Yeah. That, to me, is more exciting. Yeah. And that's typically what happens. Is that there's a handful and you get to just sit with it for a bit, then go visit the schools. I tell students not to visit schools until they get in or until they audition. Like, why go fall in love with, Ithaca? Why go fall in love at Syracuse? Go once you get in. And then, because that also, students might be like, I don't want to go here. And that's fine too. So that also might help you make a choice. Totally. But do it after you get in. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you got to trust your gut in life. That is the hardest lesson to ever learn ever. But like, if you can start doing it at this age, you will be unstoppable.
It's so important. That's why, like, that also, like, advocating for yourself, being able to talk to your parents and caregivers about the things that you're really contemplating. And like, when we make that school list, I say it's really one of the only times that I actively engage the family. Because I'm like, I need to know that if this kid gets into NYU, that you're letting them go to NYU. Yeah. I need to know that if they get into the school in California and you live in New Jersey, that you're letting them go to the school in California if they want to go there. It's support, but it has to be support through the whole thing. Yes. Let them figure out when they get to somewhere that it's not for them. But I need to know before I say, great, these are your schools, because if they get in and then you say no, even though I know they're adults, but you say no, they want your support. They're not going without that. Yeah. So we all have to be on board for any of these scenarios. And that does help make the decision-making easier too. Because then there's never a conversation about like, I don't want you to go there in the first place. Totally. Yeah.
That's great. That's really nice to hear.
Well, it has to be part of the conversation.
Yes, 100%.
Because it is something that when sometimes parents don't understand, like, oh, my kid's applying to 25 schools. They're certainly not going to go to that school in the middle of this state somewhere. Maybe they are. Like, maybe that person in that audition was like, oh my gosh, who are you? Tell me more about yourself. Oh, how can I get you to come to my school?
For sure.
You've got something really special. They jive with that person, and it's genuine and it's real. And then they're like, I want to go here. And you're like, oh crap, you're going to be 1,500 miles away and you can't come home for Thanksgiving. Yeah. Well, you need to have that conversation now.
Totally.
That has to be front loaded. Yeah. Otherwise we have heartbreak, and this is not the time for that.
No.
There's plenty to come. So this is not the time for that. It should be a joyous decision. I mean, I've had students really agonize sometimes over schools that feel like they're very much at the same level. Where it's like, okay, it's a little difference here, a little difference there, or things I've heard. It's like, then that might take you going again on campus, visiting the faculty, doing a day in the life, seeing if you can follow a student around. Like, there's still ways to kind of like flesh out if that's the place for you.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to make these giant decisions when we're 17 years old. That's crazy. That's so much to deal with.
I always say it's like the hardest thing you'll do. And not that I've done either of these things, but it's the hardest thing that you'll do until you plan a wedding or buy a home. Like apparently buying a home is very...
I mean, that's just not possible.
I'm a renter for life.
Let's
be very clear. Here. I'm a renter for life. But yeah, no, I mean, it's...
But planning a wedding... I love to host.
I could do that in 5 minutes.
I'm a host. I'm the hostess with the most. Of course I can plan a wedding.
Let's find a venue. We could do it today.
Literally.
What are you doing on Saturday?
Getting married, apparently.
I swear we could do it for sure. But to me, that's exciting. But that's apparently the level of pressure and stress that people feel. Like non-theater people who can't plan a wedding by Saturday. That's the kind of pressure it is. And then when you're 17 years old, it's you also don't forget we have a social life, which is
of course
mission critical.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, you should go to those football games and you should go and be with your friends and you should have a full life outside of this huge thing you're doing. Oh, you also do well in school?
Yeah.
Oh, you also have 5 AP classes? Oh, you're also a cheerleader? And you play baseball and you're the student government president because theater kids do everything.
Of course.
Even though we don't listen to pop music, we certainly
we don't have time.
We don't have time because I'm the president of student government.
Of course.
Yeah, I've got to plan the prom, So we're also so involved. And you should enjoy the prom and you should go to that Valentine's dance and you should do your school musical. Totally. I think. I mean, people in my business are on opposite sides of the fence with do you do your school plays during this crazy year? Does that get you into college? Yes, because it helps you be a human.
Listen, you got to be a human.
Stop it.
And especially when you're going into college, that is also, yes, your time to be a professional at what you do, but you got to become a human.
Right, because the only time I was playing Marion the Librarian was my senior year of high school.
There you go.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's an important moment.
Exactly.
2 stage kisses, okay? 2 formative moments in front of my mom.
Still, yeah.
Oh my God, please. The Verona Stage Company. Girl, that was Verona High School. No, I'm just kidding. But those are important things that are skill building still. Yeah. And I think very important. You don't want to resent the process because you didn't get to participate in something that you enjoy with your friends. It can all be figured out within reason. Please don't do 4 shows. That would be irresponsible. Yeah. But your school show, you do your school show.
Do it.
Or that one show where you have your friends from that outside group. That is yes.
Yeah.
But it's it's a tough year because you're getting your license and there's social things. There's so much going on that
there's also just even with doing everything at once, there's so much obligation and loyalty you feel within all of your respective bubbles too, where it's just
of course.
Listen, if you need to cut a club, cut a club.
Right.
And even if they need you, I promise you.
Yeah, they don't.
The stakes are not that high. And you know what? High school, everything, stakes are not that
Keep
high.
going.
You are in the middle of nowhere in some random state. This is not the whole world. This will not be your whole world. This will not be your whole life. It does not depend on this. You are going to go to a school somewhere else, and you're going to be there for 3 minutes, and you're going to be like, oh,
you're radicalized immediately.
Yeah, literally. You're like, oh, okay, no, okay. I get it now.
Someone in one of those, this is so millennial of me. I'm so sorry. But I'm in a Facebook group that's my class.
Oh my God.
It's so ridiculous. And my class of 2001, and somebody uploaded, there's a website that has all of yearbooks somehow. I don't know how this happened, but just pictures of minors in all of these yearbooks. Great. And so mine got uploaded and I was like, okay, I'm going to take a peek through it. I was like, I was in this club. I was in some
literally.
Why was I in the Future Business Leaders of America club? Yeah. What was I doing? I was in the Adventure Club. Adventure to me is going home, watching Sex and the City, and eating popcorn that's too hot.
That's hysterical.
Why was I in that? Did I even participate in that? I did. Could not tell you one thing I did in that.
Of course.
But schools also preach. This is the other thing is the schools, high schools, even performing arts high schools have no clue how to help their students navigate the theater audition process. No. They say things like, oh, you have to apply early decision there. Early decision. They're going to audition in February.
Yeah.
Why are they why are they pitting ED on a school that they're not auditioning for until February 15th?
Of course.
And now they're locked into a decision they made 6 months ago? That's half of a year of their lives.
No.
Never. Get out of here. They just don't understand all of the things that go into it. And students get led astray a lot. So they're participate in peer leadership, participate in the anti, drug club or whatever, participate in all these things. It's well, the theater people who are only concerned about what happens in that audition room and maybe talking about your resume for fun, that's the only thing that gets you into the theater department.
Yeah.
I see parents in these theater groups that are my kid is going to take Spanish 4, or my kid's going to take, AP English, blah, 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 blah. Like, or they're having this Girl Scout thing that's a high level. And I hate to write like, it doesn't matter. I hate to tell you that.
Who cares?
It's great for them as a person, and that's great. And if they want to follow through on that class or that club or that elevated scouting, whatever the thing might be, excellent. But it has nothing to do with them getting into the theater department. The theater professors aren't even going to know.
No.
Unless they talk about it in an interview, which is, the other component of this whole thing. You also have to be a person. Which is
crazy.
Crazy. Sit down. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
They tense up.
It's one of those things where, like, once again, like, people want to work with cool people.
Yeah.
Everything is a vibe check. Everything really is a vibe check.
And for you.
Absolutely.
As the person auditioning for that program. Like, there was a school this past weekend that one of my students went to, and they had a parent meeting while the students were off doing some, like, exploring the world exercise. So I was like, that would have been out of there in 2 seconds. But one of the professors, the acting professor, head of the department, came in and started trashing all these other programs to the parents. And the parents were like, can we pull our kid out of this audition?
Yeah.
Like, we're checking you also right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, how are you talking about yourself in that way, or dishing this program or that program?
Totally.
Like, horrible.
Yeah.
So it is. You also have to have a buy-in to what these people are doing as well, right? So if they're talking about other programs, well, tell me about your program.
Absolutely.
What's so great about you?
Every theater department will have a culture. It will have a culture.
That's all you need to know.
It's going to be very unique from every specific one. Unique can mean so many things, and while they want to make sure that you fit into their culture, you also want to make sure that you want to be a part of that culture.
Absolutely. And that you're and schools always will ask them, where else, what's my competition? Where else are you applying? I'm like, tell them.
Yeah.
Tell them every single school you're applying to.
Absolutely.
Because you're not the only option. And if they want you, they better make the offer. They better do it quickly, and they better give you the money.
Yeah. But
you have plenty of options.
Absolutely.
If somebody wants to go to school for theater, they're going. It's just a matter of where that's going to be.
Exactly.
But there's not one program.
Exactly.
And so you'll know that right away when they start asking those questions of you, and you'll get that vibe immediately.
Yep.
I have my students recap with me every single question that was asked. What was the dance call to? What did you do here? What happened here? Talk me through everything. You have to really clock it. That way I can tell students moving forward, this is what happened at this school. This is the question that was asked here. This is the vibe that came through here.
For sure.
Just things to pay attention to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot.
It's so much.
So much.
It's so much for me. A
grown.
I'm going to put this in quotes, a grown man. But never mind to have, I genuinely could not have dealt with all of that. I could not have compartmentalized all of that when I was in high school.
And let me tell you, is there a way to navigate this and go to school for theater, musical theater, or acting and not do so much of this? Yes.
For sure.
Of course there is. There's many, many, many paths. There's also the path of no degree, but that's not why we're here. We're talking about students who do want to pursue a degree.
Of course.
So yes, there's many ways to do this. And there's many ways to get I work at a school. I'm an adjunct faculty member. I teach voice at Centenary University out in Hackettstown, New Jersey. And it's a regular school that has this beautiful theater in it. They have got a robust BA theater program with acting, musical theater, tech, playwriting, directing, whatever the other subsets are. They have an equity theater within the theater company. They employ their own students in both tech and as actors. And it's an hour from New York City. And you can live there, and it's a reasonable tuition, especially if you're in state. Like, the guy who runs the program was on the national tour of Titanic in the original run. Like, these are professional people.
Yeah.
And you can just get into that school and go to school for musical theater. Right? Like, there are ways to not have to navigate this. Yeah. But for the people who do want to really explore lots of options, it might be a bit unavoidable.
Totally.
But it can be pared down to whatever your specific need is, for sure.
You just got to figure out what is right for you. And you have to do that without the parental pressure. You can't be doing what is right for your parents, And
that's why I think a lot of the time, like, parents like to give their student to someone like me.
That's awesome.
And like, what I do is very different than what some other corporations might do. There are companies who do this, and that's their own thing, and they do that very well. And then there are people like me who work independently, and it's me and you. And it's us from April 1st until you make that decision. And sometimes after that too, right? Like, it's a relationship for life.
Totally.
If the student chooses to keep that as a relationship for their life, right? Like, but whatever you got, like, I'm going to help you with whatever that is. And parents like that too, because they're like, okay, she's a professional person. She knows what she's doing. She's doing the best thing for my kid. It does her no good to have the kid do a bad job, right?
Of course.
That hurts her.
100%.
She's communicative. She's engaged. this is the support structure that my kid needs to navigate whatever this is going to be for them. Because a lot of the times the parents simply, as they'll say, just don't know.
Yeah.
And parents might think, oh, that's not a good school. Yeah, but it's a great school for theater.
For sure.
Like where I went, please, I had my science class count as my tap class at Steps. Do you know what I mean? Like, this was not an academic institution.
That's amazing.
You know, it might now. They just got bought by Northeastern, but also things change, right?
Yeah.
So, like, programs ebb and flow. They pop up and they go away. And I think that one's going to stay, hopefully. But not all schools are academically. It might not be a great academic school, but it's one of the best theater schools in the country.
Yeah.
Or it might be an incredible school with a not so great theater department for whatever reason that might be. So much to figure out. And the more support that you can have to the extent that you want it is available in so many different ways.
That is exactly right.
Yeah. And so much free, I think, great advice on TikTok and Instagram. And there's great YouTube channels and students who've gone through this. Is a lot of information out there. You just got to look for it.
You really just got to look for it. And luckily, we are in this day and age where it is easier to do so.
Absolutely.
You know, and reach out to people, you know. Once again, a shameless DM. Always do it. I always say, just do it. Push comes to shove, they don't answer, and then once again, you're just in the same place that you were before.
You
lose nothing.
You absolutely are. And it's a people who are in this part of the business, the education component of things. They want to help.
Of course,
you know, they really do. And so, reach out to people, ask questions. Get in those DMs. You know, they might be able to give you some things for free and some advice for free. And other things that might not be because other people are paying for that. Right? But you should ask those questions.
Absolutely.
You never know what their availability is that particular moment. Like for me, if someone sends me a DM, if I'm looking at it in that moment, I'm answering you and you might get a 10-page DM from me.
Yeah.
But then the next day you got me in the middle of meetings and I meant to and I forgot and I just forgot. But like, I'm going to answer whatever I can.
For sure.
You know? And I think a lot of people are like that.
Exactly. Y'all, this is an industry of community and it starts right from the very beginning. So
connections.
Lean on it. And
that's one more thing I want to say. And then I'll shut up. Which is when I think about picking a school, I do love programs that yes, there's musical theater and acting, but they also have other things that happen, like student-run shows, student choreographed pieces, things you can be involved in, like directing projects or playwriting projects, where the theater department has more than one thing happening. And that's important because when you said connections, that's all I think about. When I think about the people that I graduated with in musical theater and acting at that class in 2005 at Marymount, and even people above and below me, so many of them are actors, but so many of them are agents and casting directors and producers and just worked on the Wicked film as a producer and are directors and go run somebody I graduated with now runs practically, I don't want to overspeak, practically runs the program at Marymount.
Amazing.
Like these people are not going to just go be actors.
Yeah.
Some of them will. But most of them are going to go do other things.
Totally.
Which are still incredibly important. Like the kid who played Bobby and Company when they did it in the Black Box, you know?
Yeah.
It got a job working for Dave Stone and has worked on Wicked for 20 years.
Incredible.
You know what? Has a Tony now. Like, one of my friends called me, hey, do you know this person? He's an agent. He's like, do you know this person? They just came across my desk. Like, I think you did a show together. Like, these connections are not just my actor friends.
Correct.
Your actor friends, yes, that you were thrown up in the back of a cab with, are going to go be professionals in this industry.
And let's reiterate that. Thrown up in the back of a cab.
More than once.
Yep.
Windows down.
Every star on Broadway, it's happened. You know, we're all human.
I have receipts. I got plenty of receipts.
And you know what? You can find that in the bonus content on the Patreon.
Oh, plug.
Bam. Oh, my God. Yeah. This has been so illuminating. This is also just so fascinating for me because I really was not in that world. And like, I have learned from the trauma of friends and their pasts now. But like, it is also, I don't want this to deter anyone. Like, yes, it's a lot, but like, it is so possible.
It's so possible.
Yes.
There's a home for everyone.
Exactly.
I've never had someone not get into an audition-based program, ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
It's possible. You need the right support. You need the help.
Totally.
And ask for help.
Always ask for help.
Mm-hmm. Forever.
Any other things on your brain?
No, those are so many things that were on my brain.
Heard.
And I just want to encourage people to do the thing that lights a fire in them.
Yes.
And yes, I think there's an element of this business that if you can see yourself doing something else, that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. For sure. I don't think it's like you should do that instead. I think, great, do both.
Give yourself the chance.
Do both things.
Yeah.
Be great at 2 things. Be great at 3 things. Makes you a full human.
And a great collaborator.
Oh my God, the best collaborators.
Yes.
You know, it's inspiring. So yes, pursue theater, but also look at the other things that those schools have to offer too.
Yeah.
Because if you like to take pictures, go take a photography class. Be
Do
great
it.
at that
Why
because
not?
you might be a headshot photographer.
Yeah.
And that might be how you pay your bills. You know, so I think keep your options open. Do what lights a fire under you.
Totally.
Be committed and engaged, and you'll be just fine.
Absolutely, folks. You know, go out there. The world is yours. Take it by the reins.
I'm going to cry. I love that.
No, truly.
It's so true.
The world is your oyster, and you are its pearl.
So beautiful.
Folks, we are rooting for you. We are your biggest supporters.
Yes.
And as always, you can be our biggest supporters by finding us on Patreon. That is patreon.com/BA2Broadway. Your normal disclaimer, we are not gatekeeping any information on there. That is for silly, fun, bonus content, a look into the lives of all of the lovely, stupid people I bring on this show. So go check us out over there. As always, you can find us on most social media platforms at BA2Broadway. Julie, where can folks find you if you want to be found?
Oh my God, I do want to be found.
Please do.
You can find me on my socials at Julie Galorenzo Coaching. I know it's 400 letters. I'm sorry. TikTok is all audition and actor things and funny little silly audio. On Instagram, I'm everyone's favorite daily television show on my stories. So come hang for other things adjacent to theater. And then my website for anything you might want in terms of coaching, working with me, just finding out about if you want a resume template, like go look at mine. JulieGalorenzoCoaching.com. You can book sessions with me. You can find out all about the things that I do there also.
Yeah. And if you haven't noticed, folks, she knows quite a bit about this, so go hit her up. Please do. Julie, thank you so much for being here. This has been an absolute pleasure.
So lovely.
You are welcome here anytime to talk about whatever you want.
Oh, yay. Let's do it. Saturday? I hear we're getting married.
Oh my God. Yeah, so true. I forgot about that. Okay, so any day but Saturday.
Okay, I'm booked then.
I'm busy. Yeah. And until next time, bye. From BA to Broadway is created, produced, and edited by Brennan Stefanik, music by Dylan Kaufman, and cover art by Jordan Vongsithi.